Ocean voyages, so attractive to tourists for their romance and promise of tranquility, sometimes bring unexpected surprises that reveal the true power of the natural elements. Fall and winter months are particularly treacherous when the ocean reveals its unbridled nature. Although modern cruise ships are designed to withstand the harshest weather conditions and their captains have unwavering faith in the reliability of their vessels, the encounter with the furious ocean becomes a serious test for everyone on board. Even in an age of high technology, the fury of the sea is awe-inspiring for anyone caught in the middle of a raging storm. Passengers' moments of confrontation with the ocean serve as vivid reminders that even the most advanced achievements of human thought can be challenged by the irresistible force of nature. Here are 10 of the most memorable stories from the 21st century in which cruise ships were at the mercy of the elements. In the spring of 2005, the cruise ship Norwegian Dawn faced a real nightmare off the coast of Georgia. The liner, carrying more than 2,200 passengers, was attacked by a giant wave about 21 meters high. A colossal wave hit the front of the ship, smashing the windows of the upper cabins and flooding more than 60 rooms. Eyewitnesses described chaos in the staterooms, with furniture turned into shells and water pouring through broken portholes. According to passengers, the ship's roll was so severe that many were convinced of imminent doom. "What was happening was like a scene from a disaster movie," said passenger Michelle Rosenberg, "except it was real and no one was yelling, 'Stop! Cut!'" February 2016 was a big test for one of Royal Caribbean's most technologically advanced cruise ships. Anthem of the Seas found itself in the middle of a storm with hurricane-force winds of over 150 miles per hour and waves up to 30 feet. 4,000 passengers were forced to spend nearly a day in their cabins as the ship battled the raging elements. Witnesses to the incident described the ship's terrifying 45-degree roll, furniture and broken glass flying as if in weightlessness. The captain made the difficult decision to abort the voyage and return to a port in New Jersey, canceling a planned trip to the Bahamas. "We watched as the deck furniture flew past the windows like weightless fluff," recalled passenger Robert Hubbard. "The pools turned into gushing waterfalls, and not a single plate in the restaurant survived." December 2010 was a dramatic time for Explorer of the Seas, which was carrying 3,000 passengers. The ship found itself in the path of a powerful cyclone in the waters of the Pacific Ocean. For 15 hours, the ship was battered by waves as high as a 5-story building. Passengers described with horror how the huge ship was tossed about on the waves as if it were nothing more than a toy in the hands of the angry ocean. Seawater poured into several cabins through damaged portholes, and the main restaurant was a veritable apocalypse. Furniture and utensils seemed to have taken on a mind of their own, moving chaotically around the room. "It felt like we were in a giant washing machine," recalled passenger Sarah Johnson. "Even the most experienced sailors among us admitted that they had never experienced such a frenzy of the elements." In the fall of 2012, Voyager of the Seas encountered a fierce typhoon off the coast of Japan. With 3,500 passengers on board, the ship found itself in the middle of a raging storm with waves up to 15 meters high. The ship rocked so violently that passengers could not keep their feet. All entertainment was canceled, restaurants were closed, and passengers were urged not to leave their cabins. The night seemed particularly terrifying as the deafening roar of the waves mingled with the ominous creaking of the ship's hull. "Every time a wave hit, the ship shook to its foundations," the captain's chief mate said. "We were confident in the ship's strength, but those 36 hours were the longest and most stressful of my seafaring career." In December 2010, Brilliance of the Seas passengers faced a true maritime nightmare. Approaching the Egyptian port of Alexandria, the ship found itself in the middle of a fierce storm with waves up to 12 meters high. The ship listed at an alarming 50 degrees, causing numerous injuries to passengers. Inside the liner, chaos reigned. Interior furnishings, technical equipment, and personal belongings became dangerous projectiles flying through cabins and corridors. Shattered glass, overturned restaurant furniture, and flooded decks turned the once luxurious ship into a veritable disaster zone. We were jolted out of sleep by the sound of our suitcases flying across the cabin, passenger Maria Contreras recalled. And then we watched in horror as the huge palm trees in the atrium fell like fragile matchsticks. Even a sea giant like the Queen Mary too couldn't escape the wrath of the elements. In January 2004, on one of her maiden voyages, the majestic liner encountered a fierce storm in the waters of the North Atlantic. Huge waves, up to 18 meters high, crashed into the ship with unbelievable force. Despite its colossal size, the ship rocked like a small boat in a raging sea. Passengers watched in horror as the huge panoramic windows of the main restaurant were completely submerged with each new roll. The sight was both majestic and terrifying, said Captain Christopher Wells. Even from the height of the captain's bridge, the waves seemed like insurmountable mountain ranges. September 2017 was a stern test for Norwegian Epic. The ship found itself in the path of the devastating Hurricane Irma in the Caribbean. The 4,100 passengers suddenly became hostages to the raging elements as waves up to 14 meters high began to pound the ship from all sides. The captain had to make constant course corrections to find a safe route. The passengers spent 2 agonizing days without leaving their cabins, accompanied by the howling wind and deafening pounding of the waves against the side of the ship. We watched in horror as deck chairs flew overboard like light autumn leaves, said passenger James Henderson, and the pools on the decks turned into huge, uncontrollable fountains. While this incident was not related to the rampaging elements, it illustrates how dangerous ocean travel can be even in calm waters. In July 2006, an autopilot malfunction caused the Crown Princess to list a frightening 24 degrees. More than 240 passengers suffered varying degrees of injury when the ship abruptly changed position. Water instantly left pools, furniture moved chaotically across decks, and people fell and rolled down suddenly tilted corridors. The experience was similar to a roller coaster, except no one was buckled in, recalled flight attendant Julia Reed. Although the Costa Concordia wreck was not caused by storm conditions, this tragic accident forever changed the way cruise ship safety is viewed. On January 13, 2012, the ship struck an underwater reef off the scenic coast of Italy. More than 4,200 passengers and crew members found themselves at the epicenter of a real-life nightmare as the huge liner began to roll rapidly on its side. As a result of the disaster, 32 people died, and the accident itself became the most expensive maritime disaster in the history of shipping. December 2008 brought unexpected trials for the passengers of the cruise liner P&O Aurora. The ship found itself at the epicenter of a powerful storm in the Bay of Biscay. Giant waves up to 12 meters high and hurricane-force winds in excess of 130 kilometers per hour turned a seemingly carefree Christmas cruise into a real test of strength. Passengers described with horror how the huge ship seemed to fall into bottomless water holes between the waves and then floated on their frothy crests. All entertainment was immediately canceled, and passengers were urged not to leave their cabins. These dramatic stories serve as a stark reminder that even the largest and most technologically advanced cruise ships remain vulnerable to the indomitable forces of nature. But they also demonstrate the incredible durability of modern cruise ships and the utmost professionalism of their crews, who are able to steer the ship through the worst of storms. Each such incident invariably leads to improved safety systems and better weather forecasting methods, making ocean travel ever safer. However, no matter how advanced our technology becomes, the sea will always remind man of its unbridled power and unpredictability.